Beautiful.
10 seconds.
But it's really.
Five, four,
It has no power.
three, two.
Hey, good evening, Northwest Indiana. We're listening to We the People with Justin Camper, Attorney Justin Camper. And we just had guest Prince El Rahim Ben Dan on. We thank him. We plan to bring him back. But we're going to go back to Attorney Camper for a moment. And we were talking earlier before we got off about jurisdiction, the importance of it. We talked a little bit about non-delegation. And I had used the phrase professional citizen. So I'm going to ask Mr. Camper in his own words to elaborate what he thinks. Outside of voting, what do you think is one or two of the most important things that a citizen needs to know about being a citizen?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that a citizen should be, engaged in understanding how the procedures of how the law works. You're not gonna know everything. No lawyer knows everything. But I think every citizen should understand the basic procedures of how the law works. I think every citizen should understand U.S. history. A lot of times, when it's taught, it's very distorted or people put their opinions in it. But I think every citizen should definitely understand U.S. history and what laws came from. And also, and it's something that I think all of us need to work on. John's probably an expert in this, but really understanding which government official has what authority that each governmental official has, and basically connecting as to what do they rule over, right? Because a lot of times we complain about certain things, right? We complain about the pothole, right? But we don't know that the alderman is the one who's supposed to be handling that. We're just voting for the president, right? But I think we need to know, which governmental official is over certain issues. That way we can know, okay, if I have a pothole issue or I have a, issue with, buying land or whatever the issue may be, which government official to make those complaints to.
Okay, so you heard that, citizen. So we have to know how, just like we know the rules and policies at our jobs, we need to know the rules and policies in our community, our general basic rules and policies, other than our speeding and the stop signs. And I think some of us don't know that with the way we drive out there, right? So in that same vein, what's your opinion as to the cost, or if you want to use the word cost, don't let me put words in your mouth, cost, detriment, or benefit, or harm, whatever you deem it to be. Maybe the pros and cons would be more appropriate for me to say. One, the lack of participation and the lack of basic awareness of in the community with regards to rights and government.
Yeah, I think the basic thing is that your rights are going to get trampled on. That includes
from lack of participation.
Yeah, lack of participation and just ignorance in general. Again, your building might get tore down unjustly. You may there might be just a certain nuisance in your community, in your neighborhood, that all you have to do is make a phone call, or all you do is contact a lawyer, and that could have been done. You can get sued wrongfully, things like that. So, it's just really important. I mean, it's going to cost, money, and it's going to cost time. It's going to just cause a lot of pain by not understanding, how these systems work, and, making sure that you're informed about what's going on with the government officials.
Okay, well, now I'm gonna bring up two real life examples to make this real simple for our audience, right? And I'm gonna tie these examples into our local community directly, right? Okay, so recently at 800 South Lake Street, there's a new building built. It's I think it's 6 units, maybe 4 units. I'm inclined to say 6. And there's a Beggar's Pizza. There's a phenomenal beef sandwich shop to be there, a laundromat, a barbershop, and Steel City Bakery. Right. So I was out at the structure today, checking out the structure for other unrelated reasons, and the gentleman was asking me about, you guys know I rehab properties and etc. and rent. Well, I'm a landlord, so he was asking me, and I have a restaurant, Foodies. So he was asking me about the 3-compartment sink, and he was asking me about the hand washing station. And because of my basic participation in my field or awareness, I was able to tell him, listen, before you install that, take your plans that was approved by the city and have the health department look at that. Because they may say, well, we want you to have a soap dispenser here, or something for the cleaning, the hand cleaning towel. You may be required to have a separate hand washing station or a cleaning sink by your ice cream case, because he's putting in an ice cream case where they're doing hand scooped ice cream. So they may require the counter is a sink there. So that's a perfect example about one non-delegation of authority. So the building department is not going to tell him about the safety of the sinks, even though they're going to tell him whether they're going to approve where he's putting it, right? So he go to the health department for that. And the health department, the reason why they do that, they have what's called, and Justin probably going to elaborate on this when I get done talking, a rational government basis to keep the community safe. And that's why the health department have the power or authority to regulate or tell you where you need a hand washing station at the restaurant, because they don't want us getting E. coli in the public. That's a governmental interest to protect and sustain your rights and liberties and your quality of life. And in doing that, they'll make rules about health. Sometimes as lay citizens, not professional citizens, we'll think the health department is just giving us a hard time. They just making up more stuff for me to do. They just want a permit. They want to just generate revenue for giving somebody a job to come out. But no, the purpose is for your safety. And believe it or not, sometimes we catch people that work in these departments that don't understand that. So that's how important that learning the concept of jurisdiction is. Another real life example that I was going to cite or give separate and away from that was not the building department. It almost slips my mind, but it's related, but it's separate in a way. Oh, building permits and inspections. So naturally, you don't want a building falling in on you. So even though it's a new construction building, and just thinking as a layperson, I would say, why would the code enforcement or the inspector be here so often? They just built this place. So you have different phases where they have different people who play different roles to make sure the gas lines is brought in a safe way, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have a utility sink with the circuit breaker box sitting over the utility sink and someone can get electrocuted. So the bottom line, what I'm trying to drive home here is, some of us don't like regulation because our experience left us jaded with the personalities of the people who charge with the duty of regulation. But as a professional citizen, as a participant, we can't get caught up in that. We need them and they need us. Even though they work for us, it's a mutual relationship of cooperation, because we can't take a population of whatever the county is right now, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 people, and we put them all in one room, and we have this blatant or ignorant democracy where we vote in ignorance and we just do whatever the majority want to do, without any knowledge or training. So we delegate people to do certain things.
Right.
Would you say that?
No, I agree. I think that, and you know this more than probably anybody, that, in an ideal world, that's right.
Right.
But politics sometimes come into play. And that's why it's really important to know who's the leader, who's in charge, and who's actually running the health department or who's running the city well. Because if you're not paying attention to who you're voting for, that affects little things like a building permit and the health department. Because some people, they just put their friends in, or they just do things just to make money on the side. So politics is very important, and it plays a huge part in how the law is implemented.
Okay. Earlier I had said a phrase. I said administrative oligarchy, right? When I say that what immediately comes to your mind just on the surface without me elaborating on it? Administrative oligarchy.
Few people with a little bit of power and want to weigh it over and over abuse their power as much as possible.
You guys have any experience in that? But you know what? I'm going to invite somebody to call in. One, if you have a question for Mr. Camper, and Attorney Camper. Second, if you had any experience with what we call the administrative oligarchy. All right, and it's break time, so we're going to take a moment for a break. In the meantime, you guys call in with your questions for Mr. Camper, and we'll be right back.